Welcome to another episode of Boardroom Conversations, the WATPROP business podcast. Today we have a very special guest joining us. His name is Jayson Barnett from AMX Logistics. AMX Logistics handles all the logistics behind Seattle Coffee, Rolex Global Lawnmowers, old school rugby jerseys, Yoco payment devices, amongst others. We're also going to be chatting about Jayson's personal story, culture at AMX Logistics, as well as the South African logistics landscape. Thank you for joining us for another episode. I'm your host, Justin Watkins. Just a quick one, before this episode begins, please like, share and subscribe. We're on YouTube and Spotify. Please also follow us on our LinkedIn page to keep up to date with the latest episodes. Jayson, firstly, thank you so much for coming on to Boardroom Conversations, the WATPROP business podcast. I really appreciate your time and appreciate you coming on to the show today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I really appreciate it.
So just as a starting point, I'd love to just unpack, I think the central aspect of your company is really excellent customer service. And I think it's ultimately seen in a way that all your clients are ultimately merged and they somehow know each other, or there's a referral somehow. And there's this one quote by Connie Eldler. It says, excellent customer service is the number one job in any company. It is the personality of the company and the reason customers come back. Without customers, there is no company. And I just want that quote to kind of form the basis of our discussions today. But ultimately behind excellent customer service is excellent people. And I know yourself, Andrew and Sean are running a fantastic business at AMX Logistics. And just as a starting point, just in your personal capacity, tell us a little bit about how you arrived at AMX Logistics.
Sure. So I had the privilege of growing up in Boksburg. I went to CBC Boksburg and shortly after matriculating, still playing a lot of rugby, was fortunate to go to UJ and study supply chain and logistics. But I always was on the hustle. So from a young age, my first car was a Nissan 1400 Bakkie. And growing up on the East Rand, I promptly took the Nissan off and replaced it with Jayson in the same font, and realized that I could use that vehicle to make some money. So one of the first hustles I had was delivering compost. I worked out that it was a lot more attractive for somebody in a apartment to buy 1 cube of compost than 3 cubes, which was the minimum requirement for a vehicle to deliver it. And so I used to deliver compost over the weekends. I later then moved into selling jackets off the back of the Bakkie to passing labour, and thereafter went to One-Time Airlines. So I was always exposed to work at a young age, and I think that really has driven and motivated the growth specifically into a owner-run business rather than moving into corporate. I did get my degree in supply chain management from UJ, went further and did my honours. And then started life in a corporate environment. First job was with Burco, which is now AMX, and I started as an analyst, interpreting data and putting together presentations for the sales teams. And then I started to realize that I actually could present and could sell instead of just doing the data analysis, and that prompted the movement into more of a commercial environment. I spent about 5 years at AMX, and I really enjoyed the time. In addition to that, I was at a graduate development program through Imperial and had a good insight in terms of warehousing and warehouse management. And then I really took a leap in terms of going to Maersk shipping line, so that I could combine all 3 elements, being courier, supply chain, logistics, warehousing, and then freight forwarding. Sure. Whilst I was at AMX, I met Andrew. Andrew was using one of the facilities, one of the offices within their facility, and started AMX Logistics in 2015. So our paths crossed briefly over that period whilst I was exiting AMX and moving on to Maersk. And Maersk was great. I learned a lot. It was great exposure to a global organization, very corporate, and I think that was really one of the reasons which prompted me to exit corporate and move back into more of a smaller run business. Andrew and I had continuous conversations thereof, and during that period of that year at Maersk, we decided to take a risk. I just got married, bought my first house, and it was quite a rude awakening not having that paycheck coming in on the 25th of every month. At that point, Sean had come onto the scene. So Sean and Andrew were running AMX whilst I was exiting Maersk, and the three of us just clicked and gelled from the beginning. I went across, and in order to pay salaries, we needed to start selling. And I think that's where we tapped into our own personal networks quite quickly. Every bra, every social event, it was almost, what do you do, how do you do it, where do you bring cargo in, and can we perhaps help you? And that drive in terms of growing the business came from almost like a necessity to survive. And week after week, the accounts slowly started to come on, and we started to generate revenue, shipments started to flow, and we realized that we had something that we perhaps could scale and grow. And that's really where AMX started. Andrew founded the business, Sean and I joined there quite quickly thereafter, and we've been in it together for the last 9 years.
Does the name have any association? Like, where does the name come from, AMX?
Yeah, so as mentioned, whilst I was working at AMX, Andrew took a facility within that building, and if you look at the wording of AMX, ARAMEX, and if you look at AMX, we kind of had the same philosophy as KFC, and we dropped a couple of the letters so that when we invited clients to our facility, they were like, "Wow, you actually done well here." Meanwhile, we had a 15 square meter office behind the scenes, but that's really where AMX came from. So there's no real meaning to it. It was just affiliation to the AMX brand, and AMX was born from that.
Absolutely incredible. And you mentioned earlier that once you started growing your business, you needed to tap into your personal network and basically describe to friends and family and those surrounding you and the context that you had in the logistics space of what type of service you could offer. And a lot of clients were ultimately birthed out of that. But there's a number of clients that you started onboarding over time that were all based on a referral basis. And some of those would be brands that we actually interact with almost on an everyday basis, like Seattle Coffee, Freedom of Movement, Old School, Yoco, Planet World. So somehow all those brands that I've just mentioned are somehow interconnected in terms of how they've been referred to. Would you mind just unpacking each of those stories in individual capacity, just to see how they're all interconnected and how it's ultimately been leveraged to grow your business personally?
Yeah, sure. So I think before we get into that, it's just important to just to mention how AMX, we had to find ourselves first. We had to find our identity. We had to realize how we're going to fit into the market. The logistics field is hugely competitive, and there's freight forwarders. There's hundreds of freight forwarders in the market. So we really had to work out where we were gonna leverage our abilities. We deemed as a 4PL within the market. So we really are about controlling information and providing updates to clients. We don't own the shipping lines, we don't own the airlines, but we're responsible for communication and management thereof. And we realized, with customer service, it was so important to be able to keep business owners informed and updated, and that's really where we identified or saw a gap in terms of being affiliated with brands. Brand owners and brands are very proud of what they do. They're very proud of their business, and they deserve a certain level of service. Also, brand owners are very resilient. They are determined to make their brand work, and they're very proud of what they're doing and how they're doing it. So we thought, if we can affiliate ourselves to a couple of strong brands, both local and international brands, build the relationships and grow with those organizations, it'll help us in terms of our business and keeping us around and keeping us in favor. And that's really where it started. One of the first two brands we brought on was Yoco, your handheld card readers. And we actually went back and put a presentation together a few weeks ago, and we looked at where we started with Yoco, which was one trestle table within a warehouse and 2 or 3 laborers testing and unpacking card readers, and now we employ 10 to 14 full-time employees at our facility and manage that entire supply chain. Yoco has been a great brand for us to be affiliated with, and they really are a leader within that market space within South Africa. The other opportunity with the relationship we really were proud to be associated with was Planet World. So Maurice and I met 5 or 6 years ago at a triathlon, and we got chatting, and their business was about to explode. At that point, they were just involved with car audio, and they were dealing with the Suzus and the likes in terms of the aftermarket fitments of these radios and devices, and the two businesses just gelled. So myself and Maurice and Rainer worked really well together, and again we were able to cement ourselves within that business through that level of service we offered them. And as you know, that business has grown exponentially in terms of breaking into home and pro audio, and you know, they will continue to grow because they've got a great business and a great offering. Behind the scenes, there's a lot of work, and that's really where we have been able to identify the gaps and try and help Maurice and the team as they grow, how we can be a better service provider to them. And yeah, Maurice is a great guy, and he had the opportunity to help freedom of movement. So the guys at Freedom of Movement were obviously expanding quite rapidly, and they needed sound systems within their stores, their retail outlets and their stores. And Maurice got involved and started doing the fitments of those stores. And then Leon said to Maurice, "Well, who does your supply chain, or who manages your logistics for you? You know, we're getting to a size in our business that we need to take or show more attention to the supply chain." And Maurice put us forward to Freedom of Movement.
Wow.
Yeah, so we started building a relationship with the team at Freedom of Movement, with Leon and with his team in Cape Town, Rouen. And again, it was that interaction we had in terms of understanding their brand, understanding their requirements, and giving them that level of service and dedication they need in order to continue their path of growing their own entity whilst not having to worry about the supply chain around that. And what we've done as a business is we've really tried to employ the best we can in terms of a staff complement. So we went out and we appointed well-trained, well-educated account managers, and we give those account managers a single point of contact with the client. So the client has that one touch point, whether it be import or export or cross-border road freight or any element, any mode of transport, they know who to contact. And that's really aligned us again to want to do business with brands. Because again, a brand owner or a business owner needs to be able to pick up the phone, make one phone call and get the required information he needs to make an executive decision or to make a decision within his business that will impact, you know, the ongoings and the operations around him. So there was a great engagement and a referral from a Planet Rule to a Freedom of Movement, and that actually later grew into an introduction to Old School. And I hope everybody knows Old School. I'm sure everybody's aware of the green and gold jerseys that have been doing the rounds for the last couple of months. It's a fantastic and exciting brand, and Daniel and I got a phone call from Daniel middle of the day on a Wednesday. You know, he was still working as a full-time employee, and very casual, saying, you know, he's received my details from Freedom of Movement. Can I help? So we had a quick conference call. I said to him, "Listen, happy to give you an opportunity in terms of a line of credit." I didn't know who he was, what he was doing. I knew he was a full-time employee. I knew he had some great credentials coming as a CA, so he's a smart guy. And we started the discussions. And the next thing that happened, I was on a WhatsApp group with a supplier in India, and the first bulk jerseys were arriving. So it happened so quick. We had a lot of fun around that because obviously customs stopped every consignment in the beginning because they thought it was a Springbok jersey, but the emblem was actually a kudu. So it took a little bit of negotiation and a bit of upskilling in terms of understanding the customs process in terms of what they were looking for. But once we had obviously overcome that, the volumes of cargo coming to South Africa prior to the World Cup was immense. And then going on and obviously winning the World Cup and getting the corporate buy-in in terms of having Bulk Fridays and everybody wearing the green and gold jerseys and really seeing the corporate growth in terms of the affiliation to the Old School jersey has been nothing short of unreal.
Wow. Sure.
And then obviously, I don't know if you know the story, but thereafter being affiliated with Dricus Duplessis and doing the Dricus clothing brand, and obviously Dricus going on and becoming world champion, it's really been an exciting brand to be involved with, and I think there's a lot more opportunity and there's a lot more exciting things coming with regards to Old School and their growth. So yeah, I mean, that's just the way we're trying to align ourselves again is through these exciting brands, and I think there's a lot more happening within the South African environment where a lot more brands are being recognized internationally, and we're trying to gear ourselves towards growing with that movement and growing with that environment of South African brands exploding internationally. And that's been a challenge for us in terms of how we scale our business. as mentioned, we started, the three of us, bringing on 1 controller, 2 controllers, 3 controllers, but we really want high caliber staff, and to find good people is difficult these days.
For sure.
And we've taken a different stance in terms of hiring at AMX. We're not hiring in terms of skill set, we're hiring in terms of the integrity of the person. And I think that's very important for us, is to keep that culture and keep that level of service delivery. And we were more important about the person and that person's integrity and that person's ability to deal with brand owners and business owners and communicate on those same levels really sets us apart in terms of hiring for a skill set that perhaps yes, it can be trained, but it's not really a differentiator between 2 people. Everybody should have the same sort of skills at this level. So that's where I think the benefit to the brand owner or the business owner lies, in terms of that level of integration and engagement they can have with our members of staff.
For sure, and I think you mentioned something earlier about taking brands that are locally based global, and one of those brands I know is Rolex. Stuart from Rolex.
Yes.
Just unpack Rolex a little bit as well for us.
Yeah, so we've got great guys. Stuart and the team at Rolex are a fantastic group of guys, and we really enjoy doing business with them. And 100%, we started with them as they were about to enter into the US market, and we moved the first couple of containers for them into the States. And everybody asks, surely the job becomes repetitive in terms of the process, and yes, of course it does. Every consignment has the same certain milestones and the same process that needs to be followed, but the pure joy of seeing Stuart's face when his first container arrived to be loaded, and then obviously booking it with the shipping line and letting it arrive in the States and unpacking those first containers into his facilities in the US, it gives you great joy to be affiliated with a brand like that. And I mean, even with our team, they're all excited to deal with these type of brands, because it is something that people can touch and feel and see, and you can talk about it in a social circle. And I mean,
Sure.
the Rolex jingle that Stuart likes to sing every now and again, it's something that you can appreciate, because he's so proud of what he does, and we're proud to move that type of cargo, and that makes it exciting for us as business owners and as a team to be affiliated with these brands. Sure. You mentioned Seattle Coffee is another one, and it's a brand that everybody knows, and it's something that we didn't think about prior to being involved with or moving these containers. Is that where do you drink Seattle coffee? 90% of Seattle coffee is drunk in your car,
Sure.
and that's the reason why they moved to import coffee cups instead of obviously sourced locally, is because the quality of the coffee cup imported is of a much higher caliber than what you can get locally. And you don't want to mess coffee. And that's where the founders of Seattle Coffee were very clever. They thought, let's rather invest in a good quality cup, so that you can assure that you're not going to mess on your white shirt prior to going into a meeting whilst drinking coffee in your car. So when you start dealing with founders of businesses like the Seattle guys, and you understand what makes them tick and what the requirements are, and how in depth a simple decision around a coffee cup is, it really gives you appreciation for entrepreneurial guys and the guys that are growing their businesses, and it allows us to grow our business with them, and that's really been an exciting journey for us.
And I think you mentioned something earlier that is foundational in terms of not only just hiring, but also just culture within a company. You mentioned that your hiring policy is built on the basis of people that have integrity and character and honesty in terms of the way that they handle the process with clients, and it's a very personalized approach, with me speaking to you on the phone if I have an issue with my cargo, issue with my product. And sourcing those people is one a very difficult task, but it's finding the people that fit into that culture. So just unpack the culture at AMX Logistics a little bit.
Yeah, so we've always tried to have a very family-orientated and family-run business culture. As the business grows, it gets more and more difficult to retain that. The three of us, Andrew, myself, and Sean, coming out of corporate, one of the first things we wanted to do was make it easy for people to do business with us. In order for that to happen, we needed to be very receptive to client requests, very accommodating, very have quick decision making, and in order to do that, we needed an open level of communication, open lines of communication, and that's really how we've kept it and how we want the business to grow, is being able to make quick decisions and make business work. In order to achieve that, the culture is important around how we communicate with our staff, and like you said, the level of and the integrity and the type of person in which we hire further aids that. So we also understand as fathers and as husbands and as sons that family is important, and we can't put our best foot forward in front of our clients if we're not happy internally. And that's what we really try to instill within our team, is that everybody's got different circumstances, everybody's has different backgrounds, and we need to accommodate those people differently. Not one size fits all in terms of how we manage and how we try and look after each member of our staff. But we've tried to create a culture that is comfortable, and a culture that's understanding in terms of our staff and of our team, because we are a team. We can't function without the team that we've invested in. So yeah, it's a really relaxed organization. I think everybody understands that what's required of them, and there is a job to do, but in the same respect, let's have fun whilst doing it, and let's be flexible around everybody's needs. So yeah, our wives don't like it, but we're online all the time, and I don't know how many WhatsApp groups I'm a part of, but that's the nature of logistics, and I think we've tried to instill that in our team, is that guys, work flexibly, work remotely, allow your life and your responsibilities to blend in with your occupation, but in the same respect, there's deadlines that need to be met, there's clients that need to be updated, so take that and work with it the way you want. So we've never ever micromanaged. We don't really have staff meetings. We don't really have one-on-ones with our team. I mean, I think everybody's grown to understand what's expected of them, and we try and manage through communications that develop and help instead of knock down. And it's quick up and down. We all still sit in an open plan office. So actually, I
was just about to mention that even the layout of your office is in a way that you guys can communicate with each other all the time.
Correct.
And stimulate that culture.
100%. So I mean, Andrew, myself, and Sean don't have offices. We sit together within an open plan space, and the rest of the team sit within another open plan space, which is divided by a bar. And that's really how the culture works. So, but it's great because you have to keep a finger on the pulse. So if I am sitting and I hear a phone call come through and I can hear there's a bit of irritation or aggravation or a tone of voice that doesn't sound right, one of us gets up and goes and finds out what is the issue, how can we help, where can we get involved. And again, it goes back to that culture of having open relationships, open conversations, and I think we get things done a lot quicker that way. We saw growth coming out of COVID, which was quite abnormal. And we're seeing growth now again because of supply chain disruption. And we tend to grow when the supply chain is in turmoil. And I think the reason for that is that ability to react quickly to when our client needs options. And if we were operating within a corporate environment, you would have one of our members of staff or account manager dealing with multiple clients, and they can't communicate fast enough and effectively enough. Whereby the way we've structured it is we've tried to be as close to our client as possible, give options, allow variances, allow change, and work with that, helping our client, get the best possible outcome. And I think a lot of bigger corporates have come to us because of that ability. We always say it's very difficult for two big corporates to work together because there's just too many levels of communication, too many obstacles in terms of communication flow. When you've got a smaller entity dealing with a larger entity, they get that level of service required, and that's really very important to us.
Yeah, and I think it's that agility that allows you to service a larger customer, and that kind of moves into the next portion of that I'd like to just chat about is the exciting project that you guys are currently working on going into the future.
Yeah, so there are quite a few exciting projects that we're currently working on. I said that the one that's really been quite a game changer for us is the involvement with bringing in raw material for South African breweries. Exciting in the fact that it's opened up quite a few different levels of service that we shied away from in the past, in terms of break bulk shipping, in terms of chartering of aircrafts, in terms of management of the volume of commodity that's currently moving in. So at the moment we're assisting with bringing in raw material for the manufacture of crowns. They call them crowns. So a crown is essentially the bottle top that goes onto a South African brewery's beer. And just to give you some scope, there's 9.7 billion crowns manufactured every year. And 60% of that would be black label, which I was actually quite surprised about. I knew black label had the lion's share, but I never knew to what extent. So I've learned a lot about beer and the crown movement. But the crown's got three real components. It's got the steel, it's got the lacquer, which is used to make the actual bottle top shine, and then it's got the compound, which is the sealant. And being exposed to that, like I said, that level of or the size of that supply chain and the complexities has been fantastic for us, and it's really allowed us to leverage it and gain buying power with obviously the shipping lines and the airlines due to the pure volume, and it's helped us scale the business in terms of knowledge, and I think that'll be great in terms of going to approach clients that have a similar type of supply chain, raw material imports, a similar size of deadlines in terms of you can't brew beer if you don't have a bottle top. So it's critical deadlines, and I think that has really opened up a whole new avenue for us. The other element or other exciting opportunities in the agricultural market. So we've managed to solidify a relationship with one of our clients at the moment that's involved in the importation of pig and poultry equipment. To an extent that we've actually invested in their business and given a AMX account manager to them to be sitting on site in-house and helping them manage that supply chain. For us, it's fantastic because obviously, we can continue to grow with the client, but also helps us with regards to communication flow. If we have somebody sitting on site that understands the internal dynamics and requirements of the client and is able to understand that and manage a supply chain based on our service offering and align it with the client's requirements, it only can be successful. And that's the level we're getting at with our clients, is that we're understanding their businesses so well that we actually can put somebody on site and they don't feel threatened by it, they welcome it, and it will just help that supply chain become more efficient and more effective.
Speaking to you, it's just so interesting to see how just how passionate you are about each customer. Each customer is unique in their own right, and each customer has their own set of complexities, but I think the passion that you have to meet their requirements, to understand their story. I mean, even when you're talking about SAB and you understood the breakdown of the crown, and I think the level of complexity, the level of detail that you go to in terms of understanding your client, I ultimately think it's what separates you from other 4PLs. And I think it's one of the reasons why guys like Rolex and the guys that have really complex shipping dynamics, like in terms of Rolex, like I know with that whole story, it was touch and go in terms of getting everything to the US.
No.
So I mean, it was a very hands-on type of approach that was required, and I think your guys' level of detail and the level of desire to understand the customers is really commendable, truly.
Yeah, we enjoy it, and it's one way to grow the relationship is to take interest into your clients' internal dynamics of their business and what really makes them tick. Sean and Andrew have spent a lot of time with myself in the market, understanding clients. With Maurice and his team, as their business grew and as they acquired the likes of Audiotronics and Tom's, it was getting involved, understanding what the new brands were coming on board, what those supply chains looked like. And you almost want to become an addition to the business. You want to become a partner. And that's really where we want to go with every single one of our clients, is become a partner within their business. Understand the internal complexities, understand the level of what their supply chain needs to look like. So we can ask the right questions and we can make decisions internally from our side to try and to mimic that. And it's exciting. It is fantastic to go, and it's been great that we haven't focused on one particular silo. We've got the high-end electronics being the Planet Worlds, being Hikvision CCTV cameras, being Yoco handheld card readers. Then we've got on the other sphere, complete other spheres, we've got the agricultural products. So, like I mentioned, we've got Big Dutchman that does the pig and poultry farms. We've got JSF, which does farming implements. And then in the middle, you've got your industrial goods. You've got your hydraulics, and you've got pumps, and you've got valves, and then you've got textiles, and then you've got cranes, and then so it's fantastic because you can really get an indication as to what the industry is doing around you in terms of the different silos and where the economy is. I mean, we are really the litmus test in terms of where the economy is going, because it all starts with importation. It all starts with moves through the ports and the airlines. So we have a direct indication of where we are in terms of the economy and which products and areas of the economy are growing. So it really is interesting, and we really try and get as close as we can to our clients to add that additional value.
And it's actually quite nice because you can pivot yourself to whatever industry is doing better. Because you can see like there's 3 or 4 that are doing better. You can actually prioritize those clients, prioritize that side of the business. Even if the other side is quiet, you can actually continue that cash flow in terms of the business's operations.
So we've seen consumer-based products boom over the last 6 months. Coffee's booming at the moment. However, there's been a bit of an industry slowdown in terms of industrial-based goods. So goods as importation for the use in like mining or construction seems to have slowed down, but consumer-based products seems to be still on the rise and rising quite quickly. So it is very interesting to kind of understand what's happening and then grow with that, or try and move into those sectors that are growing a lot faster than the rest.
For sure, it's absolutely fantastic. It's just commendable how you guys have built this business, and it's really fantastic just to see, because personally, my business and your business, there's a lot of similarities in the sense of customer centrality. There's a lot of elements in which we want to walk the road with the customer in a very unique and personal way, to understand their requirements, understand what they need, how can we come alongside you to ultimately build the journey and build a relationship over the long term.
Correct. And I think I must mention that it's been great to have partners. It's as Andrew and myself and Sean have really grown over the last 9 years, both individually but as a collective group. And it's so important because every client's got a different personality, and certain clients I clash with, and certain clients Andrew will clash with. But it's great to be able to have that weapon in your armor that you can say, okay, well, you know what, I'm walking away from this one. I know Andrew will suit this client. Let's introduce him. So it's really been great to have options to build this business around the 3 of us and where our strengths lie. It's been fantastic, and it is difficult. Having partners is really, really tough. I spend more time with Andrew and Sean than I do with my wife and my kids. So it is very difficult managing the relationships, but we're all in it together to grow this business, and we're all in it to be successful, and we're all in it to look after our families and our staff. So at the end of the day, we get the job done, and it's been great to see the growth of between the 3 of us and the relationship. But it's good to have that shoulder to lean on when things are tough. That was, like I said in the beginning, moving out of the corporate environment and not having that paycheck was a frightening experience. But as the business has carried on growing, it's become scary. And we don't have a big brother. There's no foreign investor in AMX Logistics. So when the bank balance is low, There's no cubbyhole to open and you get a top up. So you either got 2 options. You go either hide in your garage for a while, or you put your head down and you get through it. And that's really where it's been great having those partners, because we all have those ups and downs, and it's just good to share it and move forward with them.
For sure. And as a South African business owner, and obviously having Sean and Andrew alongside you, if you had to, you've obviously dropped a lot of nuggets of wisdom along the way in this episode, and if you had to just give advice to a young South African looking to start a business in whatever industry it may be, what advice would you give a young person?
Yeah, so we get asked this question quite often, and people are expecting me to come up with this reply that you need to find a unique opportunity in the market, and you need to be hugely entrepreneurial. The simple truth that we believe in is that just find something that you can do 10% better than your competitor, and do it well, and do the basics. Answer your emails, pick up your phone calls, respond to clients' requests, and be 10% better than your competitor, and the opportunities will come. I think the level of service in South Africa is not where it needs to be, and I think if you can offer a premium service and be better than your competitor, I think that there is huge a gap for growth. And that's what we try to be. We're just trying to be 10% better than the next guy, deliver a level of service, keep it straightforward, keep it simple, speak to your clients, pick up the phone and get in your car and visit clients. I think there's this massive email culture that's been created where you can hide behind emails. It's very easy to send off an email, wait for a reply. No one can shout at you over email. You can say you've missed an email, or your email sitting in your outbox. And there's so many excuses you can hide away from when dealing on email. But when you're sitting in front of somebody or you're on the phone to somebody, you know, it's not that easy. And people
get real very quickly.
Correct, and people appreciate that. I mean, supply chain is a difficult field. You know, we're responsible for controlling the uncontrollables. You know, we don't have a direct control over the shipping lines or the airlines. We don't have a direct control over customs clearance. But I'm responsible for meeting a deadline and getting a container or an air freight shipment there on time. And so there are a lot of areas within the business that we need to manage and control. And if we believe if you want to be successful, it's being in front of your client and being the guy. You know, everybody needs a guy, and we want to be the supply chain guy. And I think if somebody was looking to start a business, that would be the advice. Just be 10% better than the rest, and be open, honest, and straightforward, and be in front of your clients.
Sure, that's great advice. And just in terms of finishing off, when you look at yourself as an entrepreneur, when you look at yourself as a business owner, what are some of the like entrepreneurial tips and tricks that you've come across, that you've read about in books and watched in other podcasts? What are some of those like tips and tricks that you kind of hold to personally yourself that kind of just keep you going and just help you navigate what you're currently doing as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think, I mean, for me, for us as AMX Logistics, the biggest thing is hiring the right people, and making sure you've got a good, solid team. I would never say to anybody looking to start a business or grow a business to skimp in terms of firstly salary expenses and the number of people you need to hire to grow this business. You're only as good as what that team is. Sure. And I think people obviously always trying to get the best bang for their buck, but don't do that when it comes to regards to your staff. And I think that's what our next almost strategy needs to be, is that we need to make sure that we've got good young people coming into this business. The older we become and the more cantankerous and grumpy and irritable we get, the bigger the risk is to AMX Logistics, because obviously you become older and more set in your ways and less in tune with what's happening around you and the environment you're operating within. So you need good, clever, smart people coming in to take over from you. I think that's one element that can't be taught, but that we've learned the lesson along the way. And the second thing is speaking about your business. That's why I'm so appreciative for having this opportunity to come on and chat around AMX Logistics. But we've also got a social media team that we're using to manage our LinkedIn pages and to manage our Instagram pages and our website, because I don't think people speak enough about what they're doing and who they're working with. We need to be proud to work with our clients, and we need to tell people about that, because it separates us from the rest. And people want to be affiliated with like-minded people. So the business owners we've mentioned, the likes of the Maurice and the Buzzard brothers and Bruce at Rolex and the Seattle team and Yoco team, they want to be affiliated with a like-minded company that wants the best for themselves and for their business and for their team. And that's really be important to affiliate ourselves with the right clients, and hopefully they see the same in terms of who they're working with as a supply chain partner.
For sure. And I really, really, really appreciate the opportunity just to chat with you about AMX, but also chat to you about your personal journey and just the incredible clients that you get to interact with. I mean, me personally, I wear freedom of movement shoes. I have old school jerseys. I pay for my coffee with a Yoco device. I pay for the coffee at Seattle with the Yoco device. It's just incredible how you can work with these various brands. And it's just such a privilege, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and just share more about your story and what you're doing in the logistics space in South Africa.
Awesome, thank you. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks so much, Jayson. Appreciate your time.
Have a good one.
Cool.